Welcome to the night show, ghouls and goblins you are. Tonight's episode of the Final Picture Show podcast. FYI, there is some, we're both in, I think half of the United States is like under a storm warning.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe both of us are currently experiencing some internet problems, so you may never hear this. This might be an amendment I add on to an episode that I have to record solo later on, but we'll find out.
Oh, no.
See how long we can get in before we both just lose power or one of us loses power.
I'll just, if need be, I'll just record myself going like, oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Stuff like that.
Just fill it in, add, edit as needed. Yeah. Tonight we're talking about 28 Days Later, which came out on June 27th, 2003 here in the United States, and November 1st, 2002 overseas.
Yeah. Wait, 28 Days Later? Shit, I watched 28 Days.
Well, then we experienced very different movies. You'll have to tell me what Sandra Bullock was up to in rehab. And
I genuinely thought about watching that after I watched the movie, but I was like, I don't have it in me.
I feel like there's probably a way you could edit them together and make it make some level of sense, but it'd be challenging. You know? Oh, man. Well, here we are once again. My sign of the apocalypse this week is it is summer break for me. Today's my first official day of summer. So
hey.
I feel like this is a good way to celebrate the start of summer by watching a movie that, at least here in the United States, came out in summertime.
Oh, yeah.
And the weather here has been very summerish in terms of it. It was nice earlier, and now it's raining like crazy.
Yep.
And, so that's been fun. And I got 50-something days before I got to go back to work and start doing all that nonsense again. Ooh. So we're entering the summer of George. I have no big plans, but we'll see how it goes. Do you have a sign of the apocalypse this week?
Oh God, people told me I made their day better today. That's pretty. That can't be a good sign of anything.
We're going downhill fast.
People are like, I feel better for having talked to you. I'm like, I don't know how to help you. Like, you are fundamentally broken. So.
All right. Well, it's an interesting side of the apocalypse. We both had some unique ones. Summer break and being told you're good at your job.
Yeah, right.
Both things. Very problematic things, in fact. Well, let's get into tonight's episode, 28 Days Later. This is going to start a little bit of a trilogy. We're going to do next week, follow up with the sequel, 28 Weeks Later. And then the week after that, the new one will be coming out. And me and my wife and a couple other friends are going to go see it live in living color
y'all are gonna,
here in Memphis.
Yeah. Speaking of new movies coming out, uncharacteristic for me, this might be a sign of the apocalypse. I watched a movie that came out this year.
Oh, yeah? Which one?
Novocaine.
Yeah, go ahead. What's about Novocaine? I have not seen or heard anything about this.
Oh, have you not heard about it? So it's, do you know that kid, what's his name? The Dennis Quaid's son? Have you seen him?
I know that he has a son. I don't know his name.
I don't know it either. He's in The Boys. I don't know he's in a Star Trek show, like a cartoon show. But he plays the main character in there, and he's this dude that has, he basically can't feel pain, and it's kind of like a bit of an action-y kind of movie with a guy trying to deal with these thug dudes, you know, and he's just a regular guy, but he can't feel pain, so he just does all these horrifying things that are just awful to see. It's pretty good. It's pretty funny. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely different.
I'll have to give that a look.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the movie of the night, 28 Days Later. Like I said, the first of this little trilogy of films. And the one that's coming out soon is actually not going to be the end of this. They're going to continue making more of them, the rumor is. At least another one coming out in January. So, we will be revisiting, so to speak.
Yeah.
First one here started with director Danny Boyle, who was kind of a big shot. Did a lot of movies. The Beach, Trainspotting 1 and 2, Slumdog Millionaire. That was a big one that was nominated for a bunch of awards. 127 Hours, another one that was nominated for a bunch of awards. Another one that we'll talk about is Sunshine. That's a really, really good sci-fi movie that not enough people talk about. And
I don't think I've seen.
Never streaming anywhere really. It's a good one. It's a really good one. It's about they have to like go to the sun to like restart it or something, if I remember correctly.
Ooh.
And it's a cool little sci-fi movie, filmed very much in the way of like a kind of a Danny Boyle movie. He would make it directly after this, so there's that.
Okay.
He would co-write this movie alongside Alex Garland, who was a novelist. Who wrote The Beach and also was a writer for a lot of other movies and would eventually become a director as well. He would write Sunshine as well as be the director for Ex Machina, Annihilation, Civil War. He also wrote Dredd, the Judge Dredd remake, as well as a few video games, Enslaved and the Devil May Cry remake, and the TV show The Devs. A lot of things, kind of a wide assortment of things. We will talk about him again with the most recent 28 years later is coming out. This group, this pair has reunited for that one, as well as the movie Civil War is definitely kind of a little pre-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic. I don't know if you know anything about that one. That one came out a couple of years ago.
Oh, I know.
That one's about that one's about like how the right wing and the left, basically the country gets divided by political ideology, and there's a literal civil war happening between the two sides. Maybe a little too close to home at times, a fun movie nonetheless. It's definitely a movie that you think it's going to be one thing, and it's not at all that. And I didn't hate it. This movie cost $8 million to make, and we'll talk about the budget a lot because it was very much on the forefront of the minds of the creators of it. And ended up making quite a bit more than $8 million. Yeah. So $8 million was the investment. It ended up making total $84.6 million.
Whew.
Yeah,
that's some happy producers right there.
Yeah, money paid off quite well. The cast, we'll go ahead and jump into that, and then we'll get into the background as per the norm. The cast has a little bit of history unto itself. So the main star here, Jim. Mm-hmm. This, you might think if you watch a lot of Danny Boyle movies before this one, that you would assume Ewan McGregor is probably going to be the main star of this movie.
Right.
And originally it was going to be Ewan McGregor. But Ewan McGregor and Danny Boyle had a falling out, a lot of it due to The Beach. Same thing, Ewan McGregor was supposed to be the star of The Beach, and they opted to go with Leonardo DiCaprio instead of Ewan McGregor. And obviously due to Leonardo DiCaprio was a much bigger star, Ewan McGregor was not at this point in time.
Right.
So they went with Leo over Ewan. He kind of held some resentment to that for a while. Like, they didn't work together for a little while there. Huh. And because of that, he was not cast here. Ooh.
Yeah,
just heard a big thunderstorm. I did hear that.
We might lose power.
Yeah, well, if Travis disappears, we'll hope for the best. Remember me. Avenge me.
Jeez, crazy. Do you hear that?
That is pretty crazy. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And that's
it's perfect for a horror movie, right?
Honestly.
It blends into the ambiance.
I hope it's picking up.
Hopefully it does too. You have to. Hopefully it doesn't get buried in the mix.
Right.
So instead, Jim is played by a relative newcomer here, and this was kind of the theme of the casting. He wanted mostly actors that had not really appeared in too many things prior to this. There's obviously some notable exceptions with Brendan Gleeson and Christopher Eccleston, I forget how you say his last name. Eccleston. Okay, I may have just butchered it. Both of them had obviously done some things before this, but beyond that, he mostly wanted a cast of relative newbies. And so we get Cillian Murphy, who obviously is now no longer a newbie, Oscar winner and done a ton of things.
I really like him.
He's a great actor. This was the first movie I ever saw him in.
Same.
And he was show up again a couple years later in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies as Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And then again with another Christopher Nolan movies, and again with more Christopher Nolan movies. Ended up winning the award for Oppenheimer. Yeah, so has kind of made a career out of becoming a very good actor and making very wise choices with his performances. He's not really in too many movies that are bad. He kind of always is in pretty consistent things. On that note, thank you, Storm. We move to Selena, who is played here by Naomi Harris, who is also a relative newcomer at this time. She had done some stage work and whatnot, but hadn't really been in anything too big before this. She is also an Oscar nominee. She would get nominated for Moonlight. She would also show up in Skyfall and a couple of the James Bond movies, as well as 2 of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and Rampage and Venom. So some other kind of random things there that she's kind of been in.
Yeah.
So far we're two names in and 2 Oscar nominees in as well.
Kidding.
And I love the I'm hoping that it's picking up the storm in the distance because it's adding perfect ambiance. So
it's so good.
we're moving on to Frank, maybe the most tragic character we have here.
Oh God.
Played by Brendan Gleeson, another Oscar nominee, one of my
Yep.
favorite actors. I love him.
So
He's
good.
obviously he kind of stands out here as being a guy who had been in other things beforehand. But he had been in Braveheart, Gangs of New York, would eventually be in Bruges, which is a great movie.
Yes.
As well as its sequel, and then the Harry Potter movies, and then just for fun, he was also in Lake Placid. There's the one,
Oh, man, I'm gonna have
different
to
thing there.
rewatch that one.
Yeah, he's great. He's great in every single thing.
Yeah.
Then we have Hannah, his daughter, who is really the only kind of one who stands out here of the main cast, who doesn't really show up in too many other things.
Huh.
So she is played by Megan Burns, and she was mostly recruited because of the movie she was in before this, and she would only do one other movie after this, and that would be like 13 years later. She would mostly spend most of her career doing music, and kind of never really took off like in a big way. Did put some albums out, did some songs, was relatively popular in the UK, but never really kind of achieved the international success that her co-stars here have.
Yeah.
And then we end with Doctor Who himself, the Ninth Doctor,
Yep.
Christopher Eccleston, show up in Gone in 60 Seconds, as well as 24-Hour Party People. And like I said, he was the Ninth Doctor in Doctor Who. Was a bunch of different stuff. Has been in countless movies.
Yeah.
And all over the place.
My intro to him was Gone in 60 Seconds, the remake with Nick Cage and all them.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's another movie that a lot of people... It's not as good as the original. I'll give it that. But it's over... It's not as bad as people say it is. There are some parts of Gone in 60 Seconds that are pretty fun. The scene at the end where they're getting ready for the heist, and Nicolas Cage does the finger
I do that all the time.
I do that all the time. Yeah, that's a constant mannerism that I have adapted into my own personality, where I'll be like, and let's go. So I can't say I hate that movie while I do that. So that's our cast. It's not a very big cast. Actually, originally, the premise that they had, and we'll get into this when we get into the endings. In one of the endings, they had written an ending where the soldiers are never involved at all, where it was just going to be the 4 big characters, and that was it. Why? Budget. Because in the filming of this movie, they would eventually literally just run out of money. The producers literally had to announce to all the people working on it, we have ran out of money. So let's get into the background, because you're going to hear a lot about this. So...
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit. They went with lesser-known actors specifically because they wanted it to feel almost like not like a found footage movie, but in a way like that you suspend your disbelief that this, the way it's shot was it's a digital video camera, so it looks more like a shot-on video movie from like the late 80s, early 90s than it does like any kind of big budget movie. And I love the way it's filmed.
Oh, yeah.
It's also directly inspired by Resident Evil. Alex Garland, when he was writing it, actually hadn't really... He loved Nightmare... I almost said Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm sure he loves that one. Probably. But he loved Night of the Living Dead. And he watched that and watched Dawn of the Dead. And then didn't really think anything about zombie movies for like years. And then he started playing the Resident Evil video games, especially the first one. And so he got really into that and started writing a script kind of based off of not that premise, but you can see a lot of the inspiration, right?
Absolutely.
In this movie.
Well,
the camera angles that the director uses
sandwich.
are very much inspired. Yeah. Yes. And there's also a part where like they're in a mansion, he wakes up alone, the camera angles, like I mentioned. There's a lot like this is the best Resident Evil movie ever made. It has nothing to do with Resident Evil.
The second
this movie is very, very Resident Evil inspired. Yes, if you've ever played at least the first 2 Resident Evil games, there's a lot of that in here. It's very directly inspired. So.
Well, especially the part where they switch to a different camera angle and he ends up walking into a wall. That's very close to my play style.
Right. There's a random water puzzle that they had to solve in order to get out of the mansion, and it really just slowed the third act of the movie.
Yeah,
down.
really. Oh, and then
it was really trending until that part, and I was just like, wow, I don't know if we needed to include all of that.
Well, and then the 30 minutes they spent reorganizing their inventory.
Yes. They had the green card, they needed the red card, so they had to circle back around. Yeah.
Oh boy, we shell shocked ourselves here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So they tried to get funding from major studios and corporations beforehand, but everyone said no. This was before zombie movies were really back in style. In fact, this movie kind of pushed that back into style. There was a time period where there weren't really a lot of zombie movies being made every single year and month and day of the month.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of started that back happening again because it was able to do it and do it cheaply and do it well for cheap. And that's obviously going to inspire a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
So they had a lot of money issues, like we mentioned. And because of this, the main stars, the 2 main actors who had been in other things, they had to take emergency pay cuts. So in the middle of filming it, they had to agree that their pay would be immediately reduced from what they said it was to begin with, in order to compensate for the fact that they were running out of money. All right.
Huh.
And all of the zombies, quote unquote, they don't call them that anytime in the movie. The infected, as they call them, all of them are supposed to be and are, at least in this one, they're like athletes, ballerinas, or gymnasts, or rugby players, people who were used to doing athletic things because of the endurance needed to run as much as they were going to have to run.
Yep. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
See, I like that it's kind of a separation from a zombie movie because they are just like they're infected with this rage virus. So that's
the rage virus. Yeah, it's not until the second movie that we kind of get a little bit more details as to what exactly the connection to like undead and zombies that they have. The first one leaves it a little bit more ambiguous.
Yeah. Well, I love that.
So, in order to film this movie, they had to go a little guerrilla style. So they would shoot downtown in different locations for 45 minutes to an hour at a time whenever it was early in the morning or late at night. And that was how they were able to do that. And even doing that, they would only get like maybe 1-2 minutes of usable footage after filming for hours. Man. Yeah.
That sounds stressful as hell.
Yes. Speaking of stressful, so the bus scene, where the bus is on the side, that we see at the beginning of it, they had to set up, film, remove, and get all of that out of the way in 20 minutes.
Oh, my God.
They asked for permission from the city, and the city told them no, so they just kind of did it anyway.
Awesome.
Whenever no one was looking. But, yeah, they had to do all of that in 20 minutes. So this movie was kind of filmed with that. This movie is kind of an anxiety attack waiting to happen. It makes you very tense, and it's very fast. And you can see a lot of that was also in the creation of it, where it was a lot of like, okay, let's go, and let's go quickly.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that actually makes me feel even more tense. Knowing
yeah,
that.
Right? Yeah. The mansion they filmed at, in order to facilitate the funding of it, they had to agree to use a mansion that was out in the middle of the woods that was currently being habitated. So the person that was living in it was just living on the top floor, and they used the bottom few floors of his house, and they just filmed during the day. So that's all taking place in the same place when that's happening. So I thought that was interesting that they did all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so at one point they were able to get a little bit more money, and so because they needed to film the ending of it. So they shot it in sequence, like we've talked about a lot of movies that we talked about. They film it in sequence. So they got to the end, and that's when they realized that they were about to run out of money.
Oh, man.
They were able to get a little bit of funding, and they used this money to get the jet that they needed to film the end of it, with the jet passing over and everything. And originally they were going to CGI the jet in, but they found out that the cost of CGIing it in would be almost the same as just renting a real jet and filming it. So they just rented a real jet and filmed it. So that was the ending. And speaking of the ending, If you watch it on DVD, you have all of the endings available. If not, then you got a different ending depending on which part of the world you watched the movie in.
Oh.
And there were one of 3 endings, and there's also a 4th ending that was never actually filmed, but it was storyboarded, which is on the DVD, where Alex Garland and Danny Boyle actually like take on the characters and read the other ending. And the storyboarded ending is what they would have done if they ran out of money and had to end the movie where they were instead of adding on the whole second half with the soldiers and all of that.
Oh, that's cool. I want that DVD now. Dang.
Yeah, it's a fun time. I have 3 copies of it. Every time I see it at a used store, I always buy it because it's one that it's not streaming very many places.
No,
and, now that the new one's coming out, it might be, but yeah, otherwise. He doesn't. It's not really streaming a whole lot of places.
No.
And they filmed the movie during September 11th. So the supermarket and the whole celebration scene and all that was filmed on 9/11.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So all that was going on at the world which added to the complications in finding the ability to film in certain locations because all of a sudden, they were running into problems of okay, well now the world's kind of getting a little tense. So, they don't want dead bodies all over the streets and things like that.
Right.
So they would film and then have to pick up really fast and get out of there.
Well, because that
kind of adds to the speed
of
the movie.
Yeah, that started the era of see something, say something. So people probably...
Yes.
Yeah, that made it a whole lot harder, I bet.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So we'll go back to the endings here in a minute, and we'll talk about them more when we actually get into the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Several tracks from the film, the soundtrack, would go on to achieve success and fame elsewhere. Especially the main theme of the movie has been used in other movies as well, and has kind of become its own little reference to 28 Days Later and some of the things that go along with that as well. There was a comic and a sequel, obviously, that came to follow up, and there's going to be another sequel coming soon as well.
I didn't know there was a comic.
Yeah, there is a comic that kind of ties a little bit more into the story about what's going on and things like that. And going back to the funding of the movie, the hospital they filmed at, you're right, we might be thinking to yourself, well, how, if the money was such a concern, how did they get into a hospital? So apparently there's this hospital in the UK who is only open Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends they lease out the building to film crews who then pay them a percentage of the money that they get, and they use that to go back into the hospital for the trust fund for the employees. So kind of an interesting little idea, and that's what they took advantage of and filmed in that particular time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about the background. As you can see, money was always an issue, and time was always an issue as well. And both of those things are issues for us. So we're going to move on to Travis Trivia so we can get to the plot of the movie and then get on to our time for next week. Are you ready to take a guess at what were the top 5 songs in the country on June 27th of 2003?
I'm ready. I'm gonna.
So as a hint, as a general hint, I'm gonna tell you 2 general hints. This was the summer of 50 Cent, and American Idol just ended. Literally just ended.
Oh.
So I'll give you some hints there. Number 5 is guest starring 50 Cent, and it's a female rapper.
Oh God, who all? I'm gonna say Missy Elliott.
Not too far off.
No?
Lil' Kim.
Lil' Kim, that was my
and
next
50
guess,
Cent, Magic Stick.
See, I never actually knew who all did that.
Number 4 is another rap song. This one is I think he's Cuban or Puerto Rican. I'm not sure. He was very popular for a little while. Kind of led to the birth of Pitbull.
Wouldn't have been Fat Joe then. I'm gonna.
No, different rapper. Sean Paul. Get Busy.
Sean Paul, that's right.
All right, number 3, another rap song.
Oh.
This one is about a man asking some questions.
Asking some questions?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Do I even know a rap song where they're asking questions? I know where there's
This
one.
was... I was going to give it to you. 50 Cent and Nate Dogg, 21 Questions.
Oh, all right. I don't actually think I've heard that song.
It's a great song.
Is it?
The first 50 Cent album is really, really good.
Okay, I'm going to have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, it's Get Rich or Die Trying. That's not the first one. He had some other ones before that, but that was the first big one.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good rap album, especially late early 2000s, 90s rap. That's like
yeah. See, and I was firmly in my new metal era. That was awful. I don't have fond memories.
You were getting woken up inside. Speaking of which, Evanescence would have been the number one or close to the number one song like a week or before this. But got knocked out of the charts by these two number one and number two songs, which were both fresh off of American Idol. So, two men who would be balladeers, songsters, making songs. Neither of them are super popular now, but they were both on American Idol. Any guesses?
Well, there was that one that I'm fairly sure I know the name of, like Adam something. Is that a name?
And who would that be?
Adam something. Oh, sorry.
So we're going further back. Further back.
Further back.
Further back. Further back. We're in 2003. So we're after Kelly Clarkson, but we're further back in the American Idol.
The only one I know that I can think of. Well, was Clay Aiken in there?
Yeah, Clay Aiken is number one.
Oh, okay.
So Clay Aiken is number one with "This Is the Night," which I guess is the song he won American Idol with.
Okay.
And any guesses who he beat?
Did he beat Ruben Studdard?
He did beat Ruben Studdard. Flying Without Wings is the number 2 song in the country at this time.
Why do I remember that?
I don't know either. But
of all the things
this time period is very specifically dated, especially when you look at the music, because you can be like, oh yeah, they both entered the charts, number 1, number 2. They had never been in the chart beforehand. This was right when American Idol ended. This would have been the day or the day after.
That's nuts.
So whenever that's happening in the middle of the summer is when I was too young to go see this. I didn't go see this in theaters, but I would have been going to see this in theaters. Had I known that this was going to be that good of a fucking movie. Yeah. So we're going to take a little break and come back and talk about 28 Days Later. See you guys in a second. Welcome to the halfway point. We are closing in on 50 episodes, and that is a fun, big number that we will celebrate in our own special way. Thank y'all for coming back each and every single week. We choose a new movie to talk about. If this is your first time, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and keep on coming back. Unless, of course, you hate us, and then I guess you could leave. To let freedom ring with a shotgun blast?
Yes, I am.
All right, here we go then. So we start the movie with news footage informing us of the rage virus that is spreading across the world. Then we cut to a primate who is getting experimented on as he's watching all of this footage of all of this chaos and craziness happening around the world. And he gets these people break in order to save him. However, they don't realize that he has been infected. And of course, this plan immediately goes foobar. Yeah. And we are left to presume that things do not go well for these people who try to free this ape.
It's not a good start.
Yeah, see, I tried doing this too, but it didn't work very well because, when you don't use primates, instead you use children and you try to get them just to watch a 24-hour recording of a box fan, they tend to fight back for some reason. I don't know why. It's just I think it's a fun time. Anyway, we cut to Cillian Murphy and we get all the kind of the Resident Evil vibes here, and it also has like some Quiet Earth and Last Man on the Earth kind of vibes too, where he very much feels like he is completely alone in this world.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you feel it.
Yeah, we don't even know at the beginning. I love that we don't know why he's in this hospital. It's not explained. He's just there. And eventually we figure out, like, he got into a big, car wreck bicycle wreck a couple of days beforehand. Just so happens to be out while this is happening, right?
Yeah. Which, why? I mean, wild,
Yeah. You wake up and this is what's happening,
That's fucking terrifying.
Exactly. It'd be a very intense experience. And I think he handles it pretty well. Like, the acting he does is really good. You can see why he's been nominated for a lot of Oscars. He's a pretty good actor, right? Yeah. Even way back when he hadn't been in a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. We then get one of Danny Boyle's kind of trademarks, which is a bridge shot almost every Danny Boyle movie, there will be a shot of someone walking on a bridge. And he loves doing this, and he does it here right at the beginning. It's kind of like his Tarantino trunk shot, where like in almost every Tarantino movie, someone opens a trunk and the camera is inside the trunk. It's just a recurring visual thing that he does. And so we get the bridge shot early on here. And I love a lot of the camera stuff he does. Either he's paying direct homage to Resident Evil, or we're going like German expressionists, like Cabinet Dr. Caligari. Yeah, sorry, my mouth can't form words tonight. Dr. Caligari. I just did it again. Cabinet Dr. Caligari. Either that, or we're getting like Resident Evil, kind of like, because the camera, based on the camera that they're using, is is a small digital recording camera, which Danny Boyle liked because of the idea that it almost made it look more like someone found this. Yeah, like a kind of almost like a shot on video kind of thing going on. But when you get that, you get a lot of the pixelation, which he really enjoyed, that they would get super pixelated. But because of that, you had a lot of limitations on how you could film things. It's kind of like filming on a cell phone now. It works for practicality, but if you're trying to film a whole full-length movie on a cell phone, at a certain point you're going to run into some limitations of the software and of what the device is capable of doing. And
that's for sure.
So they had to work around that, and they worked around that by using some of these Resident Evil-inspired camera angles. And speaking of which, if you want to hear our feelings on Resident Evil, we reviewed that movie. The first one. We haven't got to the rest of them yet because we haven't strapped in for the other 6. But we talked about the first one. One day we'll get to the other ones. One day. So he kind of gets evidence that what happened here has happened elsewhere. And as he walks around, I love that the music intensifies as we kind of build and build and build to this moment of tension. And very, very well done. Very, very well done. And he goes to the church. The church scene. The church scene looks like a fucking painting where it's just like these bodies piled up everywhere as people were, I think, seeking salvation and instead just found death as they were kind of giving their last respects and praying. And the way the camera films it all is like it's very well done. It looks like a painting. It looks like a painting.
There's other scenes where it looks like paintings too. So I wonder. I imagine it was intentional.
And a lot of that is because like one of the problems with those early digital cameras is that if you moved too much in the frame, you would get some of the pixelation and the artifacting. Yeah. So you reduce that by having your frame, how you're developing and where people are going to be, thinking of it more like a painting in a way, and having it kind of more like still frames, which is a lot of what this movie, where there's like the camera is in an angle, it's not moving, someone walks through the angle into the scene, and then we cut. Yep. And that's how a lot of the movie is filmed. Which, if you played Resident Evil, is a lot of how the game is played, where you walk into a room and you're like, okay, where the hell am I?
Yep.
And that's I like that they were going for that experience, and we definitely see some of that. So at the church, he finds some new friends, and this is where we find out that he's not the last man on Earth, as he makes some friends, and these people are not going. Well, one of them is going to be around for the rest of the movie. The other one is not.
No.
As Selena and her accompaniment help out our friend here and fill him in on exactly what happened, as he's been out for a little while.
Yeah, because they're I guess they're used to seeing people in a rage, and they not like screaming for help.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're very. So
he was easy to spot.
He's easy to spot, and they're very confused about exactly what the hell is going on with him.
Yeah, and now, didn't they say that he was the first actual, like, person, like, non-infected person they'd seen in, like, 5 days or something?
5 days, 5 or 6 days, he's the first one they've seen. Wow. And obviously the other person was no longer with them, so it kind of gives you an idea of what happened to them. Mm-hmm. So he immediately wants to go leave wherever they are to go check on his family. They advise him against that, but they end up going with him anyway. So, and we go and find his parents, and his parents have, I guess, using the YouTube terms, unalived themselves, taken themselves out of the equation, given up the ghost. There's other ways to say it that are more poetic than unalived themselves. I hate that.
They took a more peaceful outing.
They let freedom ring with a shotgun blast. No, they actually used some pills instead.
Yeah,
And
they didn't want to, contribute to this whole thing. So they just wanted to go out and make it a peaceful, just be peaceful and just, I don't know. And the note that they leave him, I feel like it was just a note to the picture.
Yeah.
They were really hoping that he would just die the same way.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Which, like I've said, man, if the world ends, I don't want to live through it. I don't want to. As horrible as human beings are to each other, man, like I don't want to see what it's like whenever there's a large group of people in this world who only follow order because they've been promised redemption in the afterlife or no longer have that to hold on to and have nothing to live for.
Yeah.
I don't want to see what those people are up to. Because I feel like that's going to be some fucked up shit. I'd rather just die. I'd rather just die. But we'll see. Yeah. I feel like we're getting there every single day. We're getting closer and closer to that moment. So, well, he almost gets himself killed visiting his family. He does get one of the crew killed. So now it's just down to him and Selena. And
because I guess he wanted to watch some home videos, and that is enough to apparently attract attention. So
yeah, and I hope that in the next one they kind of further explain a bit more about the rage virus. They do in the second one, and I hope in the third one, the one that's coming out soon, we get a little bit more of like an explanation of a bit more about that. Because this was inspired more by the Ebola virus outbreak than the fear of because like if you go back and look at Night of the Living Dead, that movie is very political in its presentation of what zombies are supposed to symbolize. Now, not every zombie movie is political and uses zombies as a symbol and as allegory. Something we've talked about as well. Last Man on Earth, we mentioned this whole discussion.
Yep.
But here we're like we said, they're not even referred to as zombies, they're referred to as infected. This is a different kind of a fear that we're playing off of. This is more of that fear of human beings and how getting close to each other and how that can lead to problems with spreading infections. And you'll notice that that's kind of like a reoccurring theme throughout the movie is that people don't want to, like Selena and him, they're kind of start to fall for each other, but they resist it all the way through until the very end because she doesn't want to get too close to him because once she gets close to him, she has to care about him. And then you have the problem of, well, what happens when Jim dies,
Exactly. Like when I have to kill him, because
I don't want to get too close to you because then when I have to kill you, that's going to make it harder for me, and I don't want to have to deal with that. Which is a thing that comes up in the movie as we get to the endings. That's a big thing that kind of comes back, and all of the endings, all four of them, kind of come back into that whole idea of interpersonal relationships and how they're playing in the movie. I love that there's a lot of train spotting in this movie. If you remove the rage virus and think about it more as like an addiction families and how addiction impacts families, it's kind of like a different take on the whole train spotting thing as well, which is interesting that Danny Boyle would kind of revisit that again and again.
Yeah, I've never
Train Spotting is one of my favorite movies. I love Train Spotting.
It's so good.
I like the second one too. I think the second one is really strong.
I think so too.
I think it's a lot of people kind of shit on it for not. It's not as good as the first one, but how could it be?
Well, I was going to say, you can't expect that.
Right? How could it be? So Selena and Jim here, they see Hannah and Frank from the balcony as they're doing kind of an SOS flashing thing, and so they try to go visit them, which almost gets them killed as they run up the stairs and attract more of the infected. And whenever they meet Hannah, and a whole lot of trouble. Yeah, right. And meeting Hannah and Frank, they kind of get a little bit more information about how they saw everything go down. And not only that, but they get introduced to this whole little radio that Frank has, which his kind of contact to the outside world is he keeps hearing this distress beacon. And it's kind of almost going back to what we talked about last week, making sub-references galore tonight. It's kind of like his Yellow Brick Road, right? It's the thing at the end of the rainbow for him that is keeping him going. That at the very least, there's someone out there he can get his daughter to who will make sure his daughter is safe, which is Frank's only motivation in the movie is just making sure his daughter is taken care of. And whatever that means, he's willing to do it. if that means whatever it means at this point.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
kind of given up any of his really like strong held beliefs. It's just I want to make sure Hannah's taken care of.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah,
I really like, and it ends up being very tragic. Kind of what happens to Hank, Frank here in a little while. But.
Well, and I think the way that Frank is like hanging on to that that broadcast from the military, you get a little bit of that from Jim earlier, where he's like, there has to be a government, they have to be somewhere. Like,
he gets very indignant when he's like, "What do you mean there's no government?" Like, I can't do Cillian Murphy, but and he's like there's always a government, and he's like, "No, there's no government." Like
yeah, that's where we haven't. Like, does it look like we're being taken care of right now? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So,
I think a lot of that's really good. Yeah. So they decide that they're going to get out of town, and they need to go to where the distress call is after some back and forth between the group and deciding what they're going to do. They decide how they're going to get there is they're going to drive, because Frank used to be a taxi man. So he's got his car, and he's going to be able to get them there. And it turns out on the way there, they run into a little bit of problem, though, because they take the tunnel exit, and that ends up not really being the best idea. And as they get in the tunnel, they get themselves not strapped. Well, I wish they were strapped. If they were strapped, they would have done a little bit better in the tunnel. But they get themselves trapped in the tunnel as they come on through and keep running into rats and then flat tires and then eventually infected.
Yeah, well, and I guess Selena knows right away. She's like, the rats are running away from the infected. And I guess that brought up a question for me. Are animals affected by this too? Well, I guess they would be. The chimps were. So I guess that makes sense.
Yes, the chimps were infected. I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things that I'm not exactly sure, because I haven't seen the second movie in a number of years now.
Yeah, I always. This is the movie I go back to.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the one I always go back to. The only thing I ever remember about the second one is that it has a different director, a different writer, and it's got Hawkeye in it. Otherwise, it's got Robert Carlyle too.
So a little bit.
It's got some good stuff. Yeah,
there's some good stuff in there. So you get
it's
more
not
of
a bad movie at
all. Connection with
Robert Carlyle was supposed to be in this.
Oh,
yeah, he was supposed to be taking the role of Doctor Who, Christopher Eccleston, but that ended up not happening. I forget what it was. I was reading it online. It was maybe like a scheduling issue or something. I think maybe he was doing Ravenous around the same time as this. Maybe Ravenous came out before. I can't remember, but something was in the way of him not being able to do this movie. So instead, they went a different direction.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, and I didn't realize there was a different director for the second one. I guess that's probably why I haven't come back to it.
Yeah. Danny Boyle did Sunshine instead.
Yeah, see, because it doesn't have that style.
He produces it, and I believe he was the second unit director for a lot of it as well. But he's not the main guy for the second one. Yeah. So this they get themselves almost killed, but they're actually finally able to get out of the tunnel unscathed, thankfully, after some narrow misses there. Turns out Hannah is a fucking pro at changing tires.
Yeah.
We need to get her onto the fucking track.
And he can just hold a freaking car up.
Yeah, he's a big burly man. He can hold that son of a bitch.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, Brian Gleason can just do that.
True.
That's just him.
It could possibly. He's a big man. Yeah. So after they survive the tunnel, we get the supermarket scene, which is probably the best scene of the entire movie, set to Granddaddy, AM 180, as they find a abandoned supermarket that is full of food and power, and they go on a little shopping spree.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, my favorite part of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because, I mean, they're basically, because they're staying on the road, so they make very good decisions. That's very smart. They're like, nothing you need to cook. Like, just get canned stuff. Because I can definitely, I think maybe everybody that's watched the movie or hasn't, anybody playing any of the video games or anything like that have to do with post-apocalypse, just raiding a grocery store is a thought that has gone through heads, Yeah.
Yeah, and they would reference that again, and like Zombieland plays off of the same thing.
Oh yeah,
like they have a supermarket scene in there. So this is a theme that like other movies would return to, and pay
I mean, it makes
homage
sense,
to
you know?
as being kind of a really important scene in the movie. It is an important scene because it's like the only time you get to see them have levity, like where they finally feel like, okay, we're safe. Like we've made
like,
it through
this is,
something dangerous
it's
together.
almost like a manna
and
from heaven type of thing, you know?
Yeah. They're able to bond. They're able to have like a moment together where they're able to be like almost like a little family, right? Like Frank is basically like these people are all younger than him. They could all Hannah is his kid, but the other two could literally be his kids.
Absolutely.
So he kind of treats them as such, where he's like, you know, like I got these 3 kids and we're going on a country visit.
Jim's looking through the like bottles of alcohol or something, and he's like, no. If we're gonna get something, get this. Like,
it's the Johnny
stuff,
Walker
you know?
Blue.
Like, he's going.
Yeah,
for
which
the
I
good
mean,
stuff.
if same like if I live through the end of the world, right? You know, it happens and I live through it.
Mm-hmm.
I am becoming the biggest booze hound known to man. And I am indulging in I was going to say the finest of liquors, but even if the bottom shelf is all that's available, I I can make Everclear work in a pinch. Trust me, I've done it before.
I was going to say
I went to public school. It's just part of the education. That's just part of the education in public school. You learned a lot that you could do with Everclear. But that's a story for a different time.
Oh, yeah.
So they decide to head out to the country, and they're going to enjoy themselves a little bit of peaches, the canned variety. But
the very presidents of the United States.
Yes. And this is when they finally indulge in a little bit of Valium, as they're all having difficulty sleeping and wondering why Selena is able to sleep so well.
Yeah.
And this is where we find out that she was kind of a chemist previously, or a pharmacist tech, if you would call it here in America, where she kind of knows a thing or two about pills, and is taking some for herself, and is indulging in a little bit of Valium to help her sleep. And after Hannah wants one, and her dad won't let her have one. And after a little bit of debating, he finally is like, "All right, give her half."
Yeah, give her half.
And this is where he starts to have some dreams, which are kind of interesting.
Oh God,
yeah,
totally
about all the different things that have happened, and he keeps having this nightmare of waking up and he's alone again.
Yeah,
which goes back to like the big theme of the movie, which is like this human connection, and like the humans need to be together. Like it's a thing with humans. Like we actively want to feel connected, and to not have anyone else to feel that connection to makes you feel almost like an addict coming down from a trip, which is kind of what he seems like he has a little bit here. See, I'm trying to connect it to train spotting as much as we can, although we don't see a baby crawling on the ceiling, unfortunately. Now, I think he would have gone that we would have been a little too far, but
you've been like, all right.
Yeah. So they finally make it to the lockdown area, the area they've been told to go to.
And while they're on their way, they go to this like gas station, and Jim, he goes into there. He's like, we don't have cheeseburgers. And there ends up being a little kid that's infected, and he has to kill him.
He has to kill the kid, yeah.
So that changes him a lot.
Yeah.
Because so far, he hasn't had to do that.
He hasn't had to put his hands dirty yet. Now he has, and he'll get his hands he'll get a lot more dirt on his hands before the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, and and man, does he, like, for his first, like, having to get his hands dirty like that, a little kid, like, that's, like, the ultimate, like, he's gonna be messed up. Like, that would be a lot.
But I do like that they do that, because a lot of zombie movies won't go that far, where they'll kind of keep kids off the menu, so to speak. Where in this movie, it's like, it can affect kids.
Yeah, and it's treated that way because, like, it has to be something brutal for him. Yeah, it has to be
the same thing happens in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake. He immediately introduces, like, kids are completely fair game here, like, because the kid immediately turns and tries to kill its mom at the beginning of the movie. Which is not something that George Romero does in the original Dawn of the Dead. He doesn't have any kids in it, really.
That's fair, right? That's understandable for back then,
Yeah. So, they get to the military point, but they don't find anybody, and this immediately kind of irritates Frank to no end. Yeah. And this leads to his downfall, as he kind of this. You see this a lot in the movie, where people, once they kind of get past that point of, like, humanity is when they kind of begin to have the problem of turning into the infected.
Yes.
And he's getting angry, and in his anger he gets a little bit of an infected blood in his eye.
Yeah, because he's like yelling at this bird, this like crow or
this
raven
crow
or
is
something.
hawking at him, kind of
And
mocking him the fact that this plan didn't work like he thought it would.
A dead infected, I guess, up on this crane thing.
Yeah.
And it just the tiniest drop of blood right into his eye.
Yep.
God, that's fucked up.
And immediately he knows something is wrong, and he tells Hannah that he loves her and to keep her away from him. And Selena tells Jim, hey, we need to kill him. We need to kill him. And this is where we get the first of our possible endings. So, possible endings happens here. So Frank is infected, and Selena tackles Hannah to keep her away from him, and Jim is left with a choice. So in the storyboarding, this is around the time where they were running into money problems, and so if they decided to cut all of the stuff with the soldiers because they couldn't afford it, then this is where the movie would have taken a different ending. And so the storyboarded ending would have had Jim tying Frank up and keeping him alive instead of killing him. And then they would have taken all four of them to an animal hospital, the nearest animal hospital that would have shown up, and they would have been introduced to another character who would have been hiding out in the hospital, seeking refuge and denying them the ability to get to the medicine they need.
Yeah.
Until they dealt with that person. And then at some point, they would do a blood transfusion, not knowing if it would work. And then Frank would be back, and Jim would die. And that would be the end of the movie. So Jim would give up his life so that Hannah would have her dad again.
Yeah.
And but they decided that would only, so they never filmed it. That was only storyboarded. But they had that in mind in case they weren't able to get any more money. They at least knew that we have these 4 actors, 5 including the other person in the movie, and we can make it work with just these 5 because the fifth guy that shows up kind of has a personality that is very similar to the head of the soldiers that we'll meet here in a little while. So you could kind of substitute him in and just get rid of all of his subordinates. And kind of condense some of the rapist character soldiers that you meet later on into that kind of idea. So they ended up not going with that, as we talked about earlier, that the funding came through, so to speak. And so instead what happens is the military shows up a second later and shoots Frank dead before anyone else has to do anything. And now they are under military control as we see that the movie kind of goes into its next arc.
Yes. And this is where something happens that I didn't actually realize before, but when we were talking about it, I started to notice something. Is, Selena is like trying not to get close to them because she's worried that she's gonna like not be able to kill them or something like that.
Yeah.
None of them kill Frank, so none of them, like, that never happens. And then, like, of course, later on, and we'll talk about that, there's a situation again with Selena. So she ends up going completely against what she was saying. And
yeah. She kind of takes on like a maternal role.
Absolutely.
And I love that you can see that she knows immediately that they are not safe around all these men.
Oh, no.
Like, she immediately grabs Hannah and keeps Hannah real close to her and immediately knows that we're not safe here. That no matter what anyone tells us, you and I are not safe around all these guys. And that ends up, unfortunately, becoming true as we get told later on, I would promise them the women.
Oh, God.
Because we meet our gang of soldiers, and they're kind of goofballs doing goofy boy shit.
They are just, I don't even know what you call that. Just pretty much.
Very, very like, I was going to say like 90s, early 2000s British stereotypes.
Yeah,
of like,
very kind of like the bully types.
Hooligans.
Yeah, exactly.
Soccer hooligans.
Exactly. Like, they're very much like, they're kind of shitheads,
Yeah. Gordon Ramsay would have made them whip up into shape, and he would have really come in and get your nightmares and made them a lot better. But fortunately, he is not here. They are having dinner though, and they are having 10 veggies and off eggs. So,
oh God,
I do like that he's like, in the cooking of the eggs, did they not notice that they smelled off? And he was like, I did, but I just
I thought
he was like,
putting a shitload of salt would cover that up.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
like,
that's not gonna
that's
work.
that's how you get sick.
Oh yeah, right? Like no. But then of course Eccleston really like this is where you start to see like these guys are shitheads because they like he looks at does he look at just Hannah or both the women? It's like I hope I hope y'all are handy at the kitchen or whatever.
He mostly Hannah, but he asked both
Yeah.
of them like, we could really use a hand in the kitchen when it comes to cooking food.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, why are you talking to the women like that, man?
Yeah, he has a lot of that. There's a lot of that kind of dynamics. He's very much
Yeah.
kind of positions himself as being the one in charge of all of this.
Yes.
As immediately dinner is interrupted by there being some infected outside, so the boys run out and kill them. And then upon coming in, they start kind of fucking with Hannah and Selena
Yep.
and just kind of like bullying them basically. And end up getting into a little bit of an argument with Jim as he kind of this is where he gets told that the women have been promised, and he immediately knows what this means. Like, there's no more context or any information given. Is he immediately knows, like, okay, the girls are not safe here,
Yep. Nope.
and I am not safe here either because I'm the only one stopping these girls from being, sexually
and
assaulted.
then there was that one soldier. Was he? I don't remember what he was. Like a lieutenant, sergeant, something. Where
Yeah, there's like one who has like a lot of lines, who's also been in some other British shows as well. I forgot his name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I didn't look into him at all. He is like very much like the moral one. He's the moralist or whatever. He's their philosopher. He's they rag on him because he's not so brutish, I guess,
Yeah.
So because he's a little more human. They kind of give him shit. So they're on the different spectrum of this whole idea of humanity,
Oh yeah.
Like there's the rage virus, and then there's these people. They're just not safe to be around. They're, you know.
And you can kind of see like the women are in this universe are not safe in any situation.
No,
they're kind of constantly after being harassed, which is what's happening in the movie. Like they take the girls upstairs and force them to put on dresses Selena is trying to pump Hannah full of enough drugs to make her not care what's going to happen to her.
Yep, like
which is a fucked up thing.
Just disassociates, just like we can't stop this from happening. But like,
at least I can give you enough
to...
pills that you're not going to care until afterwards. Like you'll know what happened, but you'll be so numb you won't feel it happening.
And that kind of makes her safer because then she won't be able to resist as much.
Yeah,
so.
She doesn't get that many pills in her before the guards come in and knock all the pills out of her hands and kind of like force they see what she's doing and are against that. They don't mask the pain. It's some fucked up shit. Yeah. And Jim gets marched out to the woods to basically be killed. And that doesn't go as well as he planned.
No.
And somehow, a series of events turns. Jim is able to free himself, and now he is loose in the woods.
He hides and pretends to be like in this pile of dead bodies.
Yeah. So he they think he's run, and so they go looking for him. And he actually, instead of running, he just ducked into the pile of dead bodies until they left. And then once they left, he kind of takes on this rage
character himself, where he's sort of right there among. He's similar to the infected because he is full on rage at this point. Yeah,
he's full on rage. And the first thing he's going to do is go set off the air siren, which is going to alert all the other infected in the area
he wants
to
them
come there.
Scatter.
Right. Like I said, he's going to set off the air raid siren that's going to get all the infected to come to where they are.
Mm-hmm. And also set the soldiers on edge, scattering. And, but
because all the soldiers,
rage, but he's also he's planning things out.
Yeah, I was gonna say all the soldiers think he's out in the woods, and so they're going out into the woods, but he is doubling back and coming back to the mansion to set loose the little trapped infected they have that they established earlier on, that they kept one who turned a couple days ago, just to see how long it takes until they starve to death.
Yeah. Well, they don't ever get to see that.
No, Jim's going to set that motherfucker free and let him wreak some havoc in the mansion itself. So as Jim gets back to the mansion, he sees that the girls are just about to go through some horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when he starts picking off one by one. And this is when the music kicks in. Some amazing fucking music.
Yes.
And it gets more and more intense as it goes, as Jim and Selena and eventually Hannah kind of go around the mansion, very Resident Evil style, executing and eliminating all the threats in their way as they are trying to get out of there before the infected kill them or before the soldiers find and kill them.
Right. Well, and here we see Jim kind of acting similar to a rage-infected,
Yeah, the most violent part of the movie is when he finds the rapists and stabs his eyes out with his thumbs.
Yes.
Gets covered in his blood, and immediately Selena grabs a bat because she doesn't know if he's infected or not. Like, he looks like he's turned.
He looks turned because he's shirtless. He's
covered in blood.
Like he looks exactly like what they've been dealing with. And she hesitates. Again, we see that again where she was kind of right not to want to get involved because with Frank, with Jim, she hesitates. And in the Frank situation, the army takes care of that. But in this situation, it's a good thing because he's not actually infected. So, but what did he say? Oh, he said it's a little more than a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Yeah. So she's confronted with the idea that she's going to have to kill him if he has turned. But as it turns out, he's fine, right? And this is where she eventually breaks down and they start actually kissing each other. And we find that like that tension that's been there through the whole movie has finally broken through.
Then a little breaking of the tension, we get Hannah stoned off her mind on pills. Smacks him in the back of the head with a vase or something.
Yeah, she whacks him in the head because she thought he was infected trying to bite him.
I thought you were eating her.
Yeah, right. It's really great. So, this is where all three of them are now together, and they're trying to get out of the mansion as the soldiers are coming back into the mansion now that they've realized where Jim is. And so the two paths are going to cross. And this is where we get some more of the different endings happening here. So in all of the endings, Jim gets shot. So at the very end, the main soldier, Christopher Eccleston, he shoots Jim just as they're leaving, right?
Yeah.
That happens in all of them.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, he dies like he does in all of them, right? That's the same. So the endings, though, they change a little bit in what happens next. So in the first ending, the ending that we get on the DVD, and you'll have to tell me if this is the ending you saw, Jim wakes up and Selena is knitting, and then we... Yep. Okay, so that's the original ending, right? Yes. So, not the original ending, I should say. There's a different ending that's the original ending.
Oh.
And so this is the ending that they went with on most of the time, which is that we see that Jim wakes up, they're knitting, and they are going to go outside and flag down the plane as it flies overhead so they can get some help.
With a big blanket that all sewn together that says hello.
Exactly, right, exactly. So there's the three of them there. Now, second ending is the exact same thing, except it's just Hannah and Selena.
Oh.
So you are inferred that somewhere along the way, Jim has died.
Yeah, he succumbed.
Same thing, except that part's different. And then the third ending is we cut to them right after Jim gets shot, and he's fading in the car like Tim Roth in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
As he's got a stomach wound. And Selena is trying her best to save them. They get to a hospital, and she's trying her best and hitting him and trying to resuscitate him, and it just doesn't work. And Jim dies. And then it cuts to the two of them doing at the cottage, same thing, just the two girls. So in several different versions, the only version of the movie where Jim doesn't die is the one that we the theatrical version, where it's the three of them in a cottage together. All the rest of them, he either sacrifices his life for Frank, dies in the hospital after getting shot, or mysteriously just vanishes and we don't know what happens to him. But there's only one of the four endings where he ends up actually with the girls, and that is in the one that we get here.
Huh. That's crazy. Well,
So,
I guess they that I can see how you would get that kind of realism, I guess. Like someone's gonna go, and we
Yeah,
followed this guy the whole time. You wouldn't expect it to be him. So
I honestly am kind of I think the ending is the one thing I dislike about the movie. I think it would have made more sense to have him die.
yeah,
I think they would. If I was them, I would have gone with the ending where she tries to save him with like her background in like pharmacist.
oh yeah,
Give him some pills and take him to a hospital, try to clean the wound and save him that
mm-hmm.
way, and it just doesn't work. And then we
Right,
catch up with the two girls trying to, later on. I think that would have been a little bit better, in
yeah,
my personal opinion. But you end it on a somewhat of a happy note. It seems a little bit almost far fetched a little bit to end a movie like this on this
yeah,
like kind of like pleasant like everything works out in the end. It's like
right,
it maybe it doesn't but I
yeah,
guess in some mind Hannah had already experienced so much loss that you gotta try to keep that little
yeah.
bit of family together.
That's
But
right. And it's not like they're really doing all that well. I mean, like they're doing pretty good because
yeah,
you can see like up against this wall. There's some infected that's like all dead or something. Um, so they're
yeah,
doing okay-ish. And there was a part there where that soldier, that leader, well, whatever officer, whatever he was, where he's talking about how because him and Jim are locked up together, and because he also tried to stop them from
yeah. The little sub
assaulting the
lieutenant
women,
guy, yeah, yeah,
and he is talking about like, do you think this has gone everywhere? Like there's we're in quarantine, like they're keeping us on this little island. We're screwed. They're not going to help us.
yeah. Which
They're
is a
just waiting
topic
for us
they
to die out.
revisit in the second one.
See, and I'm gonna have to rewatch that one before I remember anything about it. So, 'cause
Yeah,
I don't remember a thing.
in the second one, they do get into the topic of if this has spread all over the world or if it's
Okay.
isolated to just
Well, and
the UK.
it happens so quick. It's one of those things where it's like it's hard to believe. It'd be easy to imagine it could be isolated pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, you would
So,
imagine. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, but then again, you also have to think about like this movie kind of came back into popular consciousness during COVID
yep,
because of like the outbreak and how people responded to outbreaks, and you could see how defiant some people were to
oh
do
yeah,
what
oh
needed to be
yeah,
done to stop things from spreading. So
hmm
you could see how easily this something like this could spread from a tiny little lab in the
oh
United
yeah,
Kingdom to
hmm
across the entire world very very quickly. So let's
absolutely,
get into our final thoughts and then our maybe a big takeaway from this movie, something we can apply to ourselves as we experience our own wasteland.
yeah,
Um, I love this movie. I think it is one of the best zombie movies. I say that with air quotes because we
hmm
don't call them zombies in this movie. One of the best zombie movies ever made. Maybe up there with like Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, the George Romero ones,
hmm
for being some of the best zombie movies ever made. I like everything about it except for the ending. The
oh
ending is
yep,
the only thing I don't like, and I talked about that, what I would do
hmm
differently with the ending, and why I think you should. The movie subverts a lot of expectations in a lot of ways, and then we get to the end, and it just kind of was like, well, here's the traditional ending, and it's like, eh. I feel like that. I wish they would have gone a different direction, but I see why they did what they did. And in spite of that, I think it's a fantastic movie. The big takeaway I would take from this movie to apply to our own post-apocalyptic world that we are currently living in is trust no one, and if needed, have a shotgun on you and be
yeah,
willing to shoot your friends when they turn on you
yeah,
because they
absolutely.
will. And yeah, your thoughts?
My feelings on this movie, it's such a great movie. I watching it again took me right back to seeing it the first time. Like that's the cool thing when a movie does that. Um is it just doesn't change how you feel. And it's one of those movies like it scares the shit out of me, but like the way it's filmed and the way that it's acted, it just draws me back in. So it's like I'm scared, but I don't want to look away, because I'm just having a great time with the
Yeah.
visuals, with the acting, with everything. It's so good. The story's amazing, and it's really captivating because it's that loneliness. I mean that, and we've talked about that in other movies. Uh, that hits hard, like because it's such a horrible human feeling of like we need other people, we need each other. So
Yeah.
not having that, it's fucking awful. So
Yeah, it's that
this
simultaneous like need of wanting other people, but also fear of what how they can hurt you
oh yeah,
if you let them get too close to you.
and this might be the best example of a movie capturing that. I think like
Yeah.
what was it, the Last Man on Earth or whatever, that gets you there, but this one really drives it home. They handle it a lot better.
Yeah.
And I would say, um, my takeaway from this, like to kind of help out in our post-apocalypse world or our soon-to-be apocalypse world, um, hoard things that are not just sugar shit. Like you're gonna want some kind of canned meat or fruits or veggies or something.
Some beef jerky.
Exactly. Oh yeah, hoard beef jerky. That's my takeaway.
Learn how to dehydrate meat.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like
That's
it.
it. That would be a good one because you see the problems that are caused with the just cokes and snack cakes and shit.
It's true. All right, well, thank y'all for coming along this week, and we will see you next week to talk about 28 weeks later. Have a good one. Bye. Hot damn, college boy. Thank you so much for listening. Every single week we come back with a new movie about the end of the world, or a movie about the beginning of the end of the world, or what happens after the end of the world, or maybe one day we just decide to watch Showgirls. Who knows? Right? But every week we are coming back, and thank you so much for stopping in this week and listening to the whole episode and hearing our thoughts on whatever train wreck of a movie I chose to force my friend to watch this week. I'm a good person like that. And thank you for also being a good person. There you go. If you want to be a really, really fucking cool person, which you obviously are, why don't you give us a like, and actually, more importantly, give us a subscribe. I find that to be more important. I don't know if the algorithm says it is. I don't really give a shit. But thank you for your patronage either way, and clicking all the things and doing all the stuff. Bye. Thanks.